6 o'clock on Wednesday, November 12th. We will call this meeting to order. First, thank you to the North Reading Town Hall for hosting us tonight. We really appreciate the opportunity to meet outside of our usual space and engage with folks in all of our different ratepayer areas. We'll do public comment. The medium is being audio recorded remotely on Zoom and live streamed on RCTV. The RMLD Board of Commissioners recognizes the importance of hearing public comment at the discretion of the chair on items on the official agenda. Once recognized by the chair, all persons addressing the board shall state their name and address prior to speaking. It is the role of the chair to maintain order in all public comment or ensuing discussion. Do we have any public comment?
We don't, but I will say Karen Herrick is looking to attend this in some form tonight, so she might hop on at some point.
Okay, all right, good. Yeah, yeah.
And Rebecca Lieberman sent an email.
We are, yeah,
Are we formulating response or
Yes.
is it?
yes.
Okay.
Not for this evening, but we are formulating a response to
Okay.
reply. And the topic of,
Well, the topic is timely in the sense she's talking about
right,
how we define resources, and I think the answer should include, that's exactly what we're working on, so.
and it's what we work on every year when we go through the budget process. Yeah, so.
All right,
sure.
as long as there's a
Yep.
response
Mhm.
to a public comment.
Any other? Okay. Any liaisons? Karen is gonna try to join.
Aaron, I don't, I'm not sure I have anything new since last meeting, except that the charter committee did meet and we will present at the town meeting. And I'm covering sections 3 and 4, which includes our definition as commissioners. But no, I haven't prepped or anything, there's no script. There may not be a script until I start talking and then we record it.
Maybe sometime in December.
Yeah, so-
We're not quite through 1 and 2 yet. The first time, so.
So, yeah,
Okay, so you're preparing for that for tomorrow, right?
that,
That's the next.
Yeah.
Next session.
Well, there was no change to it, so it won't even be discussed.
no, there were changes to the.
Hey, Ray,
That's your portion. So it won't be brought up.
Well-
Because we didn't change anything, so therefore it's not going to be able to be coming up in town meeting discussion. Even though it might have been
There may not be enough changes to bring it up in town discussion. There were changes, but that's technically, we changed a few words, we changed those few words everywhere, so.
That's
it
correct.
May not.
They
Dave,
Dave, did you have a comment?
oh, I was just asking Ray, are you gonna present something? Or
Well,
like Bob said, there's no change.
we were gonna go through the charter by each person on the committee talking about a couple of things. I haven't talked to anyone else on the committee and I probably should do that.
Okay,
I was supposed to talk about the no changes that were happening to 3 and 4, but,
that won't occur.
that won't occur. All right, so,
Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, the only things that are open for discussion are substantive changes to any one of the specific articles, and then the gender neutral language does not constitute that.
All right.
So that's all that's changed in our charter portion.
I get a night off.
You may want to,
You
Yeah,
check
Charter committee,
with,
since we aren't charter committee members.
yep, but that's what the general consensus.
Ideally. Hopefully it'll give a short presentation if it like a presentation. Okay, well, thank you again for being on that committee and representing RMLD for that. Okay, we're gonna move to Vivek and the cab for a secretary appointment.
Okay, so we will need to appoint a new secretary for our cab. And do we have a nomination?
Yeah, I'll nominate Charlie to do something.
In second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So, okay, so we have a motion, actually. We appoint,
Move to appoint Charlie Russo as secretary to the RMLD Assistant Advisory Board To be effective immediately after.
All in favor?
Is there a second for that motion?
Yeah, he said,
Okay.
all right.
And we nominated and we should have had it, but then, yeah. Do it too quick.
Okay, Charlie, thank you for taking on that role. Okay, so we'll move to the operating budget presentation.
Hi, I'm Paul Heaney, I'm the interim general manager, and my good friend Patty is going to present. Patty, take it away.
Okay, so this cover sheet is for the operating and the capital budget, so we can move on to the next slide.
And I just want to double check, we are sure that we can hear Patty where she's sitting on the recording.
Yeah, you could hear me from here.
Great, there, thank you.
Okay, so this slide shows the process and the timeline and the collaboration over several months, starting in June and July. I'm not gonna read everything on each month. It's pretty standard, but I just want to mention in October, we sent 2 drafts. One on October 1st and the other one on October 23rd. And since then, we've been refining and reviewing, and we actually have a few more changes that we will make to the final. We haven't sent you the final because there might be other changes that we will send after the meeting. So, next slide, please. Okay, so this is the beginning of the operating budget. Okay, so these are the revisions that we made since after draft 2. Okay, so we eliminated or paused 4 more positions. Draft 2 had 6 paused, and the new net change is 10. And then one of my slides coming up, we'll look at the staffing levels, the tables on slide 5, which will show the different tables from 3 years. The other change that we made was there were 3 expenses on the budget that we dug a little bit deeper and realized that we had a bad rollover, carried over formula. And when we took the more current information that was available, we were able to get more concise budget numbers. So those are the depreciation, the payments to the 4 towns, and the payment to the town of Reading. And then there was a small change to the projected rent, which we realized the rent went up, it practically doubled. And we realized that when we did the budget figure, but my projection for 25, because 25 is not over yet, was a little low. So we moved that up to 300,275, which is more realistic. All slides in this presentation are updated with the above revisions. This is the table that I mentioned, and it just shows as of the fall of the prior year, which was when we were doing the budget for the following year, these were the staffing levels that we had on the budget, open, filled, and total. So there you can see that since last year's budget, we've eliminated a net of 10 positions. We eliminated and paused 14, and we added 4. 2 of them were swaps for departments. They eliminated 1 and added a different one. And that's the dollar associated with that.
Is there more information in this on any of those decisions or questions?
You mean where they come from?
Well, more like, you know, it looks like we pulled several out of building and facilities, engineering, added several in accounting, purchasing. If I'm looking at this correctly. Oh, maybe I'm not looking at, I'm looking at open positions.
Correct, so the
Okay.
column on the left is open.
Okay, so I should look at total. And the biggest change is 2 in GMHR, 2 in grid, 3 in IRD.
So there's 1 less for IRD, 1 less projected for IRD.
I see 13 total positions.
Sorry,
in
3 less,
25.
sorry, 3 less.
Yeah. So,
So the 2025 budget, IRD had 7 open positions. That gets you to that 13.
right,
26 has 2 open positions. 8 are filled.
right. I'm just looking at totals. So you believed last year that you needed 13. Now you're confident that you only need 10?
Megan?
Last year was, there was a lot of transition. Right, during the budget, season, we were still hiring people and all that.
Mhm.
And, now the team has stabilized. And we just have 2 that we want to, one is actually backfill.
Mhm.
The other one, we would make some adjustment to the position and then post for that. So the team is pretty built up, we just have 2 left.
Okay.
Any other questions on that slide? Next slide, please, Erin. So the budget compared to last year went down for no more than 4.5%. And these are some of the reasons. And this is budget to budget. So this shows significant changes to the budget. And some of it is the change in the head count. But there are also instances where we have more labor going to capital in 2 of these categories than we did last year. And that's because of the 2 big projects that we have going on, the AMI and Wilmington Substation. Administrative and general salaries is down almost 20%, and that's from the decrease in the headcount. Maintenance of general plant, that's the IT category of that's for the whole place, and that went up only because we were classifying software as a capital, and really software subscriptions is operating, so we put it where it belonged, and that made an increase. Rent expense went up because the rent practically doubled. Legal expenses are up, but it's lower than the actual this past year. And we also don't have the in-house counsel anymore. And the interest income was just a bad number that was rolled over year after year. We actually probably earned over $1 million when 25 is over. And it was projected to be 300,000. And I'm projecting for 26, 775,000. Interest, so it looks like a big number, but it's materialistically not. No. So anyway, the decrease in the budget was 4.57, and the dollars are that. But the budget was in last year versus this year.
I was just gonna ask about the dollars. It's not in this version, so,
Oh, right. That's because I updated some, sorry.
so down about 4, sorry, you said 4.8.
Questions on that?
So, I have a quick question, just the rent part, is that, remind me of what we rent?
The warehouse out back?
So that's exclusively the rent number.
Right, well, it also goes in, also within there goes the utilities for the rent. Was up in
Associated.
place, so it's, gas and electricity and all of this stuff, the other stuff, taxes.
Okay.
Next slide, please, Erin. So this is a slide that maybe is obvious for some of you or all of you. You might be wondering why capitalized expenses are on the operating budget. But I thought it was important for you to know, realize that anything that's capitalized is not going to hit the bottom line in that year or the operating budget, but it will be realized, expense will be realized over, starting the following year at 3% depreciation. And any construction in progress, like the Wilmington substation, the depreciation is delayed until it's placed in service. So we're spending the money and it's not in the bottom line and it's not part of the operating budget.
Question, Patty, is there any change in kind of how we thought about any of these expenses versus prior years?
Well, like I mentioned in the last slide, some of the labor more of the labor is categorized as capital than in previous years.
But the rationale for recognizing that as capital versus operating has not changed.
Right.
The
It's just that
criteria.
the team is gonna be working more on capital projects.
Right.
Okay.
The, on the transformers that were purchased,
Oh, right.
those are capitalized.
It's right there.
Yeah,
The
okay.
transformers and meters get capitalized as soon as they arrive. So that, yeah, that's right. Even though it's part of the Wilmington substation, they are depreciable right away. Good question. Okay. So this is the condensed version of what you see in the budget book on page 87. I consolidated the O&M and the G&A just for purposes of displaying it more concisely. The numbers might be a little bit different because of the changes that we made.
So we're projecting our budget will be lower. But our net income will also be lower as well for next year. That's your,
The net income versus the budget, or the net income versus the
well,
projected?
for, county at 25, we're projecting almost $13 million.
Right,
And then 26, we're projecting
right.
10 million.
And that's
close to
mainly because of the difference in the G&A expenses. And Erin, can you pull up slide 19? Please. So the G&A went up, is going up 2.8. And the components below make up most of that 2.8. And the biggest one is the 1.8 in efficiency and electrification. And part of that is we were short-staffed for a lot of the year, and the rebates weren't getting processed as fast, and now we're catching up. So we will probably be processing some of those rebates in 2026, and then we have a new ones that will be processed more timely. So that those two numbers, the difference between those two numbers make up the majority of the 2.8.
That's the decrease in revenue for the projected year, because we're putting it back into rebates and into
Right.
integrated resources. Okay.
And there just 3 more items that had some variances and the reason why. We move on to slide 9. So this should look familiar to some of you. This is the top part of the statement on page 87 and 85 in the budget book. And what this does is it shows that power supply is a good majority of our budget, and it's 65.3%. And other fixed expenses, which the definition is up there, make up another 10%. So 75% of our expenses, our budgeted expenses, are fixed.
So I think I just answered my own question, but the payment to Reading is based on kilowatt hours. So it's
Right.
regardless of revenue, I answered.
Right, and it's fixed, it's all, it's decided how much it's gonna be, right?
But the percent, but for the remaining 4 towns, for the 4 towns above the line payment is based on net plant.
Correct.
For the 4 towns,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Next slide. So this is the other half of, or the other part of the statement from page 85. And this shows the semi-variable costs, and the definition is there. Semi-variable cost is comprised of fixed and also variable components that fluctuate on output. So again, the top number, this is in order of impact on the budget. And the top is labor, and then you can see the capital labor coming out. The overtime and the capital overtime coming out, and then the pension and the benefits and the capital portion coming out. And then everything else is, you know, small in comparison. So it just shows so much of our budget is fixed or labor, and not too much wiggle room on the other things.
Spend a fair amount of time trying to understand E&E expenses.
Where do you want to know where that is?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, most of them go into the energy efficiency expense, which is, I don't know, 8 down. Except for the, no?
No.
I'm not energy, I'm sorry, it's, that's not a good, that would probably be another,
It's in power supply,
well, no, only the only
35,000.
right, but that's
the majority.
that's the majority?
Yeah.
Okay,
So it'll go into the fuel and energy costs. So it'll go into
Yeah, it's going to the power supply. 'cause
power
if you-
supply, in the previous slide, right?
I thought there were.
We actually, the service fee, I think we group it into the capacity cost, right now.
That's the 30,000, yeah,
35,000,
yeah.
So it'll be shown as a fixed cost, it'll be under the power supply.
It's not that consulting,
Excuse me?
it's not considered consulting.
Not for the power supply piece, but we also pay them for, so they have a energy efficiency and conservation group. So as an owner, we pay them 2,400 each month, so that's about 30,000 a year. That's part of the IRD, general, expense.
Mhm.
And then we also pay them fees, different types of fees for the solar array program, that they help to, process application for. And then there are a couple of other services that we have. There's an EV, RMLD drives electric website that they set up for us. And then there's a peak alert analysis service that, there was a contract there before my time. So we are actually looking at all these services, so when Jason becomes the GM, he'll help us make that decision on these services.
Patty, at town meeting, Reading noted a significant increase in healthcare costs. That was a line budget item,
Mhm.
a change. Have you seen that impact on to Reading Lights? They projected that out for the warrant. So I didn't know if there's been any communication about that on the rates to RMLD.
I think what he's asking is if we heard from the town, how much the health insurance is going up, is that what you're? asking?
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
I have not, but.
I have not either.
It might end up being that we could be under budget for 26, if that's the case.
They have a hard or a good number now, what do you think?
It was like $340,000 that they
Yeah, it was pretty
came to town
significant.
meeting for.
I don't think all of that was rate. I think some of that was
Into
covered, like
the cover the
specific
bill.
specific benefits, and things that they had to pay. But I think the increase is still, there is a rate.
There is a rate increase
for sure.
that was
It's-
there.
Maybe that's a good follow-up for next week, is just to
Find
follow
out
up
how
and
much.
find out what,
Yeah.
let's just make sure our
That
numbers.
that could change that number.
What is the large increase in training from 249 to 424? Is training and tuition reimbursement?
Just more planned training for 26 from the departments.
You want to tell them how you got that number?
I
You just told me that you talked to all
I
the
talked, yeah,
departments.
talked to all the department heads and got the numbers, what the plans are. for
There's,
training.
there's actually quite a bit less actual usage in training this year versus the original budget. Is that due to vacancies?
Vacancies and also the vacancies indirectly, because you can't have people out in training if you don't have people to cover while they're in training.
Okay.
So as we get closer to being fully staffed, people can be trained. Some of the training is, you know, obviously the safety stuff and everything, we have to do that regardless.
There's a lot of new equipment coming in. You have to learn how to use all the software, all the systems on each of two grade loans, two metering.
All that. So, before we go to the next slide, there's a number on there for other, operating and maintenance expense. It's 3.2 million. In the past, some of the board members wanted to see a breakout of that number. And the next slide is that. Yeah, it's really hard to see.
Did you get that okay?
Take up more of the screen, Aaron? No,
No.
no,
We-
Panel, it might make it a little bigger.
it's really, oh, that's really better.
You can zoom in on the iPad here, but it doesn't help the
Yeah.
folks at home.
So to answer your question about the E&E, some of those other things that Megan was talking about, not the power supply portion of E&E, that would be in the integrated resources, the 916 per out of that 36,000. So. Can I move on to the next slide? Slide
Just,
12.
I'm sorry, what's the two columns on this?
Oh, it's the FERC?
I understand the FERC numbers, and then you've got the budget. And then I go over to the next, to the left, or to the right-hand column. And I've got 589.30. What's the 50 grand?
That's for that, there's two columns, see engineering and operating supplies and expense.
Okay,
Yes, there's two columns and numbers here to reach the 3.2 million.
okay. Same with overhead and underground maintenance, so that's divided up into.
I don't know what you mean by divided up.
It's three different FERC numbers.
Oh,
And then,
yes,
so
yeah,
it's just the title at the top, so it's
Okay.
FERC and then budget
Yeah.
again, then second.
right.
Oh, those aren't millions of dollars, those are FERC account numbers.
No, I understand the FERC account numbers, yeah, I
Yeah.
understand those.
So there's two columns.
Got it,
and
That'd be
I
a good budget.
find real hard to keep it on one page.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay, the next slide, in previous years, there were questions regarding the detail of legal expenses. And this is a breakout of our legal expenses by cost center. And the things that we use the council for.
So I know we no longer have in-house counsel, where have we made adjustments?
Most of those adjustments are under GM and human resources.
So the budget this year was 676. Now you're making it 760 for the.
I don't think we changed that number. 760. Are you talking about last year?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, right, so
so
it's,
it's up.
it's up because it's more realistic to read the actual, but also because we don't have in-house counsel. And,
Okay.
you know, the budget now. Any other questions on that one? Okay, and 13, okay, so this is a calculation of rate of return. I did actual for 3 years. And also, actual through August, the 25, and then the budget. Now, as you can see, MLPs are allowed up to 8%. But the amounts that we have gone over and will go over are justified by RMLD's current capital infrastructure plan. So if we were at 8%, it would be 2.7 less. So that excess will go into capital improvements. In the projects that we have gone on.
One general comment. On net plan numbers.
Excuse me?
One comment about net plan. We got a lot of different numbers. And I can talk about net plan. There's a net plan in service. There's a net plan number here. And there was a typo for a net plan in the profile of the document.
Well, the numbers up here for 25 have some projections because the years.
No, I understand, no, but it is like. Here, this number, this is the kind of number I think we've typically seen in the past.
Mhm.
And I think this has formed the basis for the 2% payment for the towns, right? I think the 2% payment is off of this number.
It is, yeah.
Right? But if you look at the profile in the document, there's a typo. It's like the net plan is more than gross.
Right. Well,
This-
yeah, that was a mistake and we
yeah.
realize that, yeah.
And then there's another page in the book that we got, page 15. It lists net plant and service at 140 million for this year. And here you're saying it will be 123 million for 23. So why do we have these differences?
That table has some errors in it. And we were gonna have to, we're gonna have to tighten up the 6-year.
Yeah, no. So this is like a budgeting issue, and it's also. I think it's a little bit of a process issue. So why does this happen? I mean, we should not have these these should be spitting out from our system. And we should not have. Jason, I think, this kind of, like you also pointed out about net plan, right? So I think, I've seen this even in the prior year book. The net plant and service number was higher than the net plant that's reported for the basis for town payments. I'm mentioning this because this is an issue that all towns can look to say, I'm getting paid on the basis of net plan.
Not anymore. But usage.
Yeah.
But not that plan.
No, but he's talking about the
No,
four
no,
town
no,
payments.
Four towns, not to the town hall.
Oh, okay.
That's the above the line payment.
Above the
yeah.
line. Yeah.
Above the line.
Yeah.
So I think that
Yeah.
number is, we just need to be very careful about
I
it.
understand. So I actually showed you just, the one on actual, that the report that you're talking about on page 15. We have a revised one for actual that we could share for you. And then we'll figure out the 6-year plan going forward. For that portion.
Okay, so I just wanted to point out that this has been an issue in the past also in the prior, that's why I brought last year's book also, and last year's book also, there was the same kind of inconsistency.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Your point is around the systems that we
Well,
use,
yeah,
and the
well,
processes
yeah,
that we
yeah.
use to create these reports.
Yes,
Right.
because that's the danger of using Excel versus planning tool, a better planning tool. Right, now maybe, is this an Excel issue? Please just help me understand.
No, I think that one of the reports are done with the capital budget. And this report is done with the operating budget, and I think we need to synchronize the numbers.
Should be one set of numbers.
You're right,
Because, like, I'm just looking from an accounting kind of perspective. I'm saying if I find errors like this, it creates, I can question all the numbers.
Do the the capital numbers and the operating budget numbers, they come from different systems or the same system?
They're not coming from the system, they're coming from taking numbers from different places.
And
Yeah.
manipulating them
Yeah,
into it.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So
that's
it-
that's the challenge is you don't have.
Yeah, so it gets to the process, right? And Bob's been also pointing. this
Right.
out.
You know, the good thing is our audits are always very good, right, when we pass our audits. So, I think to your point, when you get the data, Karen came in and picked up on a number one during one meeting, and she's like, well, why is this number low? It should be, this one's higher, and to your point, instantly looked at a number.
And begs all sorts of questions.
Yeah, it does, but.
So I
I
just,
think that the process of the page 15 was assuming that all the capital projected to be spent was spent. So that's why it was carrying over a number that was too big.
it's-
Okay, and the numbers really on here are like based on what's really happening. So that's why we need to shore up the way that we do the one.
yeah, no, and one was called net plant, one was called net plant in service. And I don't know what
You
the
thought there
difference
was a
is.
difference, yeah.
Okay, no, okay, so thank you. Then I had one more question, and I shared this with you guys earlier also. I look at the projections for this year, I look at the 6-year projections, looking at. There's a certain assumption as to what the expenses are gonna be, because you have to have expenses, and based on those expenses, you cover it with revenues, and you set your rates accordingly, right? So the expenses for through 2030. So I looked at the expenses for 2030 based on what we are showing in this book versus what was shown in the book last year. And in terms of expenses, like, there's a substantial difference of about $11 million. Last year, the projections were showing 129,000, and this year it's like 118,000 or something. So there was a substantial difference out to 2030 in terms of expenses. So my question is, what was the difference in those assumptions? And the reason I'm asking is because we know that everything we hear talks about fuel capacity and transmission charges going up substantially. And so I just want to make sure we're not kidding ourselves. I'm just saying that because we are now projecting ahead. I'm not looking at next year's numbers. I'm looking further than that, because as we plan for additional projects or whatever we do, we need to have some sense of what our revenues are going to be. And so I just want to make sure that we are not kidding ourselves. So could you please, because that's a substantial difference, right? Because you're saying the expenses are not going to be that high. Help me understand.
So in other words, because I don't have last year's, but you're saying from last year's budget or from these line items?
In the book that was shared with us,
What page for the?
on page,
15?
no,
It's 81.
page 81.
81.
So if you look at page 81 and the equivalent of page 81 for last year, so I brought that along. Yeah, no, I have it here. And so the total operating expenses for calendar year 2030 are listed as 129.589, and here in this year it's 118. So I just want to say that that this is something one normally doesn't see this kind of difference, and especially I just want us to be careful, because if you had said that the rates were going to be higher than what we had projected last year, I wouldn't have been surprised. When you say it's going to be less, I'm surprised.
Well, the 6-year plan last year had assumptions that the expenses were going to increase by at least 6% every year. And then increase by 6.7. That is not realistic. This year, we did it 3%. Which made more sense with the revenue. So
3% year on year?
Year
Or-
over year.
or all, okay.
As opposed to 6 year on 1 year. So just think about your 401k and how it compounds the interest, same idea, 6%, and then another 6%, and then another 6%.
So do you use the same 3% on every line item?
Well, it's a general,
No, I think it comes out to be an average of 3% increase. But we didn't do it from the top to the bottom. We did it from front up. So we look at the load forecast, we look at our, you know, the pricing of energy capacity transmission. We did rely on the EAE forecast, current forecast of the pricing. We use their pricing. And then before, when this budget, this 6-year budget was done, I believe actually, when I look at the old formula, it was literally applying a 3% to a rate and then applying 3% to the load. So when you add it together, then on average, it's 6%. It was not as clear as what are the thoughts going into, okay, we're gonna have 3%, which is 6%. So right now, how we did it is we are projecting for the next 6 years, the load growth, we're projecting between 0.9% to 1.2%. And as a reference, ISO's long-term projection for the whole region is about 0.8%. So we're pretty close to that. And then in terms of the capacity transmission and fuel cost projections, ENE's cost projection for the next 6 years was actually 5 years, they only do 5 years. It's actually pretty flat. Because
In
I think,
transmission
yes,
costs?
yeah, it's incremental increases, but there's no dramatic changes. But I can tell you, transmission costs that in 2026, it's gonna stay around the same as this year. But in 2027, after 2 notes, I think it jumps by like $10 per kilowatt year. So the costs are going up, but we also have to consider whether the load is actually going to grow at the same rate as we think it would. And also we do want to reduce peak, that will reduce our transmission cost. So, you know, when you consider all these factors, it's not just a straight, oh, it's gonna be 6% every year. It's just not reasonable. So we decided we're not using the old method that was used before. So we started using a new method.
Okay, no, I just wanted, because this has significant impact, because it's really, you know, you're building a lot of, how you plan for this really is important in terms of all the projects.
Yes, and also this 6-year budget is updated every year, right?
Yeah.
So I don't, and all these, the fuel, the transmission and capacity costs are all pass-through costs.
Right.
What RMLD needs to manage is just so that we're not short when the price spikes. As long as we can manage that, I don't think we have to, put so much cushion in terms of the cost on energy. We want our collection of revenue to be as close as the actual cost. So that's how we're budgeting right now. But before, the methodology logic is like, oh my God, the price is gonna go up so much. We're just gonna build in that increase of rates all the time, but it's not always.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at the revenue side. I was just focused only on the expense side.
Oh, it's the same.
Yeah,
For the power supply cost,
Yeah.
the revenue and the expense should be close to each other. They should not, we should not, we have some reserve, we already do, and when, sorry, I keep referring to Jason. We have a few $1 million reserve. We want to formalize those reserves so that when prices do spike, we don't have to charge customers, we don't have to, turn around right away, we have to charge you more, but we can use the reserve. So that's how we look at the power supply cost. When you look at the long term, you should not be.
Okay, no, so thank you, so thank you, so you're saying this year you try to do a more realistic
More
estimate?
precise than
More
just
precise.
a mathematical formula.
Okay, no, thank you, but it's significantly different, so
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to flag.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
but each year that you do a 6-year plan, the end year is gonna change. Because you're basing it on.
Yeah, no,
actual.
yeah, no, so that's
So
why I
if
was
you look
looking
at
at it,
30 this
yeah.
year and 30 last year, it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah, no, but still, it was significant.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, big, it shouldn't be a big difference, right?
Because
Okay.
it's the infinite growth and expense, right, that everybody was projecting and when we set our rates previously, we had that in mind and it did not materialize. And then I think we were looking at the same process again for setting our rates and it did not materialize. So it's a good way to,
Yeah, it's a lot more rigorous and precise, is the way that they're doing it this year.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, last line. So this is, our recommendation that we're not going to adjust the rates. But we do need to do a cost of service study before we do any changes with the rates. And that has been done, put somebody in here.
Can you say more about that?
Can I say more about?
About the cost of service study with the objective of.
Help me on that.
Yeah,
So,
so there was the goal of doing the study this year. But, for the first half of this year, it hadn't been a priority of the GM. And after the GM left, not throwing you under the bus, both to, IGMs, I think there are so many other priorities. It hasn't been a priority. The key of the cost of service study is to really coordinate every single department at the company to actually look into, what our cost, because as we just said, power supply costs, everything is a pass through. We just need to manage that balance. But for the real cost of services for the distribution charges that we charge the customers, that's really depending on all these capital projects and maintenance and repairs that we do. And then look at the labor costs and, projection of that. And sometimes it depends on, the contract negotiation wasn't done, all these are kind of affecting how the study should be done, but I think the key is it's the new GM, if we can kind of put this as a priority, really need to work with the engineering and the operations departments, the facilities department, all the different departments are actually contributing to the distributed energy charges. And one key part is we're gonna spend what, $41 million on infrastructure in the next few years. And we build like the substation, we build that for peak demand. That happens 1 hour a year. So all that cost, like $35 million to build station 6, I think. How are we gonna allocate that? That's the key of what is actually the cost, like who is contributing to that cost and, all these, we'll have to look at all these details, before we actually change the rate. That's my thought on it. It can never be science, but I just feel the way we adjusted rates before, I would say in the end, if we had like a 4% increase of rate, maybe the end result is not that far off. But there wasn't a thoughtful process to arrive at that number. It was just done the way that, okay, we're not really like outrageously over collecting, but there's gotta be a way to look at, okay, of the 41 million, at least $41 million, how are we gonna collect that revenue? We're gonna collect in 10 years or 15 years. So what does that mean for each year? The rate, like how much extra we have to collect to get to that revenue. So all these exercises were not done, as far as I know. So that's why I'm really advocating for a rigorous cost of service study.
Two questions. What is the norm for a good muni in terms of how frequently should a cost of service
3 to
analysis?
5 years.
Three to
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
And it's
3 to
been
5
when
years.
when was the last one that RMLD had it?
I remember,
2021.
I was gonna say, I remember 1 or 2.
yeah, so that was 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this purpose is 5,
Okay.
should be at the end of what is considered business practice.
Okay, and then what is the anticipated cost of this?
Of the study?
Yeah.
I think it depends on whether we do it in-house or we hire a consultant. And I think last time a consultant was hired, and I think Erica can speak to this, we had a hard time finding what they.
So are you suggesting you will do it in-house?
I'm not suggesting that way. Jason,
I would not suggest we do it in-house.
Did you budget for something?
Yeah, no, so that's why.
To do this?
Is there a budget? That's what I'm.
one quick question. The AMI program is gonna be coming online 2026, 2027. I think that data that we're gonna be getting from that, integrating that with a rate of return, we might be a little bit early at this point, because I really do think that data coming in will be tremendous. And because you're gonna start to see on the residential and commercial sides, I'm hoping that will be a significant impact here. I understand all the other components that you're speaking to, but we might be a little bit early on a cost, study at this point, knowing that we're gonna have another data pool coming to us. That,
But the cost of service more amortizes costs, discovers your capital, allocates the RAB, all that kind of stuff, right? Does the AMI data, that's a capital cost,
you know, we're talking about rates, but the charge,
yeah.
you know, I think when we start to think about usage more, I think we've been on the high side every year, to make a point, we kind of threw the dice out there, we have the discussion, you know, we were 8%, we saw 12%. We would look at our rate of return, right? We're over our 8% each year, right? We'll put the money back into the company, but some might say, give it back to the ratepayers, right? There's $2 million, we should be putting it right back into the ratepayers, rather than spending the money. Things cost a lot of money, so I really do like there's no requirement for a rate adjustment. But I think the cost, we're on track, as a company, we have a good team, we're staying the course. So we say no rate adjustments, I think just more data coming in might be better for us to wait.
It almost feels to me like it's two sides to the coin, right? There's the cost to serve study, which is what are the kind of internal costs and the capital budget and all of those pieces to deliver. And then there's the AMI data that could be coming in that'll tell us more about when and who and what levels of, delivery we need to support. Those two coming together, two really good sets of data to be more accurate in how we do time of use, costing, and what incentives we give to people and how we think about rates across those tiers. It almost feels like you need to be doing both at the same time, so we can make best use of that data.
Because the cost of service study is the basis for the rate design. I think what Bob, you were talking about is really using the AMI data to help us to
help us figure out the time to use, how much should it be,
Right,
what's that gonna do for our.
But you don't want to do that
shape
whole
peak.
cost to serve data, right?
Right.
So you do that assessment.
In parallel.
Yeah.
How much is the cost of service say it's not? It's like
it shouldn't be.
150 grand, 100
10,
grand?
15, oh, exactly, you said
All right, yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it would be higher than 10 or 15.
Yeah, I agree. If it's higher, then I think we need to wonder if it's worth it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that, yeah.
No,
Well, you
so-
also have to get value out of it. It sounds like we maybe were questioning whether we got value out
So
of it
Bob-
last
Bob-
time. So what I would suggest is let's just make sure that we have some money in the budget for next year to do that study, and then we can make a determination if it's in-house or third party.
I'll try to find how much we paid in 2021.
I can give you some.
Yeah.
So confirming that another edit to this budget will be to add some, money for the cost of service.
Cost of service.
Or confirm if it's already there.
I just think it's be something for the new GM to understand. I mean, by doing it and being part of that review process, it'd be a chance to see the budget and where expenses and things are happening. It'd be good for the new GM to understand and be a part of.
Agree. Are you saying we shouldn't put it in the budget?
No, I said we should.
Oh, okay,
According to-
yeah.
We do it and do
I mean,
it.
it's perfect time that way.
I think it makes sense for
Here's the
the
thing,
new GM to see those. I
you're not
I think our new
waiting.
GM is awesome, but probably hasn't been through that kind of review of the budget in the past. I'm just projecting, I don't know for sure.
I've been part of a cost of service, so I do have some idea what it's involved, but
Back to the comment.
When was the last time you did one of the Danvers,
it was 3 years ago. I supplied all that capital information for it to our consultant. I was part of it, not all of it.
And could you find out how much it cost you?
I could look at it.
That's what I was saying.
Okay,
I didn't put any invoices. We don't sign any non-disclosures yet, have you?
So, Paul, my question was like, the budget, the revenue projections you have made right now are based on the current rate,
Correct,
right?
yes.
And what Megan is saying, you know, if we do this cost of service study, if you do it early, then you can, because you have to decide on rates early. So the question is, to Bob's point, would you do when would you do the cost of service? If you're gonna wait for AMI information, that's too late, right?
Yeah.
So you need to do, I mean, we need to have a rate recommendation, right? I mean, if you want to especially reduce rates, I mean, if you want to reduce rates,
Yeah.
it's important to do some analysis on rates.
And I think this data would be really important for us to have to properly determine the rates for next year, or would we make adjustments mid-year?
I think that's a decision to be made because generally we change the rates in the spring. So I think before this year, it was always changed on March 1st, and then this year we changed on April 1st, actually it worked really well. Because it was the shoulder season, the kilowatt hours were lower, so customer didn't feel as much impact. And then we checked, like there's no regulation when we change rate. So we could just carry the current rate over and not change it. Or we make whatever adjustment we need, which I can just quickly go over what I'd like to change, which I hope you agree that all makes sense. But then just wait till we finish the cost of service, and then in 2027, we have a new set of distribution rates. That's the part that we would look to change, because we have like 5 pages of different tariffs, different rate items. And a lot of them have been going on for 25 years and haven't been looked at, like all these 1%, 1.8% of discounts on, customer owned equipment and whatnot. But, if you keep paying into it and after 20 years, that whole piece is already written off. Why are we still paying a customer for that thing that's already written off the books? So that's just one example of how stagnant our rates have been. So it needs to be overhauled. So that's why generally we don't want to change just for the sake of changing it, or reducing for the sake of reducing the thinking, oh, our budget is going down for next year, then we should change rate next year too. But rather, I think we should do the cost of our study first and then figure out, okay, how are we going to actually allocate all this to different rate classes? And whether it makes sense to have like 13 different rate classes. I don't think it's helpful or necessary. The changes I do want to make, which have been wanting to do it for a long time, is our peak periods, which we may not be able to do because of the metering constraints, is to change the peak time from 12 to 7 to 4 to 8, because 4 to 8 is currently the most common peak hours. Shorter period, then we charge higher for the on-peak period. That will encourage the customer better to change their behavior. Because when we look at the hourly usage of our customers who opt in to be on TOU rates, their load shape is really not changing, just because of our pricing ratio is not big enough for them to do anything. And Belmont recently just did a TOU study. Their ratio is more reasonable. You can clearly see in the graph how people who are on those rates, they shift their peak to the off-peak period.
I call 4 to 8 punishment peak time. I absolutely do. You have families, you come home, you don't have a choice. And the time of use is very, very difficult because that's when people need power. If you're able to afford solar and batteries and options, good for you. That's not everybody. So that's why I time of use rates in those hours. Yes, of course, that's where you slow up, but that's when you're home. That's when people are turning on the stove, they're cooking dinner, they're doing everything they need to do. And I think we have to be very, very careful of that, because it's very important for those rates for everybody to be fair, right? Fair is what's out there. It's great. If I can afford a battery and turn it on and time of use, great, good for me. I paid less. the family doesn't have the money, paying more, right? So that's a factor that you really have to put in there. That whenever we adjust the rate and have every, opt in versus opt out, it's a very difficult decision, for people to make. And we just have to keep that in our minds. That's a punishment zone. It's not just a high use zone. If you're a family, you could really get hit there because that's the time when you're home, right? And it's great. And we'll all sit in the dark and eat at 9 o'clock because I can turn the oven on. I don't want to do that, right? So.
But it's the economic signal, right, that you're after is to try to, try to get people who can shift, to lower peak demand during those hours and sort of sending a signal. I mean, I feel like there are other ways to sort of meet those.
Yeah, Bob, I think it's a good thing, like, I think you make a really good point, but this is something that if you're doing a customer study.
Oh, yeah, that's something that shows you data.
So I think if you do a customer study, this would be something you do really explore. Because then you really have the voice of the customer on this.
And Belmont just did that. They just published it. They did it with APPA, the help of APPA, and yeah, it's the
Was
changes.
it across the board or if you opt in for the time?
For their study, it's opt-in.
Right, yeah. So if you can do it, great. Yeah, you're not punished.
Anyway, but it sounds like, well,
Megan,
You're not
did the cost of service study, have they
they don't
implemented?
know, they didn't do that. They just did a TOU study.
Oh, just
Yeah,
final
that's
views.
outside of their.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they did the study comes back, they get the results, have they adjusted their rates to reflect the results of the time of the study?
They're planning to, because it's just like, it's so effective. Like, that's my understanding, but I don't know exactly what they're doing.
So it feels like helpful to understand kind of what a vision could be for it. We're not at that point yet where we're making that decision. Right now, what we're talking about is our current rate structure. What are we doing for?
Getting a handle on that.
And what can we do to help increase the level of information that we have on our costs so that we can, as we get access to these additional data sources on the AMI side, we can make smarter decisions.
Yeah, so what I would, we can discuss this definitely next spring, but I would suggest to change the time periods. And then, but not change the ratio, so that it's not punitive, but actually we shorten the number of hours.
I think we should just
We're not talking-
not even talk about it now. Like,
Right.
we're not making recommendations.
Exactly, yeah,
Understand we're gonna get into it with more data.
And just for clarity about the cost of service study, that would include an allocation study, right? In terms of how to allocate those costs across the entire ratepayer base.
yeah,
Yes.
I would
So,
want to
so
do that,
that's another lever to pull in that whole system.
Yeah. Because like, we can throw a $35 million number to the Station 6, that's it, that's your cost. Or, no matter how much you look into what are the components of the $35 million, it doesn't really change anything, it's rather how do we allocate that?
Right.
You really pick on substation a lot.
I'm
I know. She's sitting right next to you and saying all this.
So quick question, so if I read this statement, you're saying you're not making a preliminary recommendation, but if you're not going to do the cost of service study till maybe late in 26.
Yes.
You're gonna go in with no rate increase.
I don't know, I would recommend waiting till the end of 26. I don't know why.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is.
What's magical about the end of 26?
Start the cost of
Yeah.
service study.
Yeah, but when do you start the cost of service? You start the cost of service study now or late? Yeah.
And people's resources and capability and when you fit it in, because it's a heavy lift. To provide all the documentation on all of the planned service and the capital spend and the backbone, and then they gotta look at the rates and the charges, and they gotta figure out how much each rate class is contributing to the backbone of the system. And what the replacement cost is, there's a lot of
Internal work, so you bring in somebody to do it with you, all the information they're getting comes from here. So it does put a strain on resources, but it's not gonna change. I mean, unless you're planning on bringing in a bunch of people later in 26 that are all of a sudden gonna be around to do this. Basically, your workforce is your workforce in terms of supporting the cost of service study. You know what I mean?
So it feels like what we do is say, yes, we wanna do this in twenty-six, we wanna do it as soon as we can in twenty-six. But let's let our new GM get settled and
Preach.
figure out what are the other initiatives that need to happen as well and figure out the right timing.
So we go into 26 with a flat rate.
Same rates, not necessarily flat, same.
And those rates support this budget.
Thank you.
All right, so we asked a lot of questions. If you have any more?
As a reminder, we have capital budget presentation as well.
No, sorry.
Right, anything else?
Good.
So we will just get a follow-up next week on those changes that we have requested. Okay, perfect. Okay, capital budget.
You want to start this? It's up. Sure. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about this one first.
This is just what was on that first email that I sent out with it. These are the major differences, major changes between the 25 budget and the 26 budget. This was all in that first email that got sent out October 1st. You guys have the copy.
So, yeah, I mean, you want,
Go back.
Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk first.
yeah, so, the major reductions, you know, for some years. We were going great guns on in-territory generation projects. We haven't been able to secure land. And if you don't have the land, it's really not a heck of a lot that you can do. Same with in-territory battery storage. You know, we had great grand plans for $12 million worth of it. It's not happening. We can't support it, you know, with our workforce, and again, we can't find spots to place it. And we spent a lot of time the last few years looking for it, and you know, no news here to anybody. There's not a lot of developable, there is not a lot of land available for these kinds of things. So the new or continued capital projects. Megan's been talking about Peter's substation 6. Says grid automation and modernization. EV charging structure. IT products. And continued investment in cybersecurity and infrastructure. Right.
So the solar projects that are ongoing are behind the meter. I mean, the Wilmington School, I think North Reading, Killam, and maybe Retail are all, we're looking at those as behind the meter, so they're capital expense on the respective town's part and not in our capital budget as
That's correct.
expenses that we're carrying. There may be some infrastructure to connect it to the grid, but that would not be different substantially than connecting any other building to the grid.
Correct.
It may be a,
Substantially is the word, correct?
Yeah.
Not-
Is there any net metering with those projects?
We return the fuel rate based on the fuel rate, not the entire rate, just the fuel rate.
Okay.
which I think is, my personal opinion is that's pretty cheap, but should do better. But that's just me.
So. We had these discussions
I know,
quite a
I know.
bit, and you know, there, you have to maintain those poles and wires.
Yeah.
We're letting them belong to our
There's not a
system.
lot of,
We pay for that system. You know, if you give them a free ride on the distribution stuff, that means everybody else is paying for it. So for whatever it's worth in Hingham, we figured out the costs, you know, the fuel, the transmission, and we would base the net metering rate annually on that. We did not give them, as the IOUs do, you know, they get the whole.
well, I agree, it's not a one-on-one, I mean, yeah, there's the two extremes of
Mhm.
watt for watt or some fuel charge basis.
Is this best practice for the MLPs?
To do what?
Fuel charge or something.
Some iteration of, I don't know of any MLPs that are paying the full, no.
I think those that are, was it all doing one-to-one and they're backing off?
I don't know, I mean, Hull had to take down their two, or at least one of the two wind turbines, so I don't know what they're doing,
I thought they had a good deal and then they go like, we can't afford that.
possibly. Don't know.
I get the extreme ends of the argument. I just think there's a middle spot somewhere that
Mhm.
covers our costs, is incentive for doing solar. Because on the other side of on the side of not doing more to reimburse solar is that then people don't invest in solar because it doesn't pay. So there's a benefit to the other ratepayers if they're not paying for peak demand charges because homes that could have solar don't have solar.
Solar really doesn't hit the peak too much.
Right,
Well, too much.
It's
is-
like 30%
is a-
of what they put in for a
It's not
system.
100%, it's a fraction, I get it, but if it goes into the math of what the benefit would be.
And actually, some of the existing solar projects, the best benefit for them is not so much net metering, it's the saved energy cost, because they don't use the energy but then the saved cost, because our rates are low. It's almost ironic that you have to
Yeah.
increase rates for the solar projects to work.
to financially make sense.
They don't work in rent for a lot of people, I can know. I mean, you gotta make a choice, right? Some people say it's not worth it, 30-year rate of return. Our rates are so low at this point. I don't wanna do it.
Yeah, it's a better investment if your rates are high, because you're saving that much more money. You know,
But anyway,
folks,
yeah, there's more to it, and like many of the things on the budget,
yes,
there
that's philosophical.
there are ways we can look at incentivizing that, and I think either in the capital cost offset or the return rate, we ought to find more incentives to make it less of a disincentive for power to come into this for their in-network. Further discussion for another.
All right, next slide.
Moving on.
No, sorry, I did have another question on the main slide. Just in terms of the IT projects and the investment in cybersecurity and infrastructure, and we don't have to talk about the details of that, because I know that some of that is, for executive session, but are we confident that we have enough investment here to really get us where we need to be from a cybersecurity standpoint?
So the person who would be intimately able to say that isn't here, he's on vacation this week, but I have not heard him say, he has not said to me yet, I don't have enough money to do what I need to do.
Okay. I think this is just something.
Tyler's nodding.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
echo that sentiment. I mean, we have the tools we have to do what we need to do and keep it as secure as possible. Obviously, there's always new and emerging threats and new and emerging technology. So, kind of that cybersecurity initiative is to just kind of give us that safety net to when those things come up, be able to take advantage of those and keep it.
So is this funding primarily for cybersecurity, or is it also for the whole upgrading a system?
So there's kind of two separate pieces. So there is, we have that one for the CIS system, and that was strictly for upgrading that. And then we have a bucket allocated
So
for
like
cybersecurity
450
initiatives.
or something, right?
Yes, so the cybersecurity initiatives for whether it be the IT side or the OT side or email security, kind of anything that may come up.
Yeah, so the cyber is like, that's only 50K, right? The cybersecurity piece is 50K and then the CIS is 400 or something.
And then on top of that, we have the operational budget that kind of covers the rest of our either existing cybersecurity things or things that help the plan run.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. All right. So this is the facilities budget. This is the fleet for the fleet, what they're adding to the fleet. As you can see, we have the PTO material handlers. That was added to the fleet in CY this year. So the fork truck and 2.5 ton gas pickup trucks. We have a bunch of the fleet back ordered, there's long lead times for all that equipment. And on the bottom, the 26, we have planned orders for a heavy duty vehicle, which is probably gonna be 2 bucket trucks, they haven't decided on what type, a couple of sport utility vehicles, a 3-rail trailer and another rail trailer on the bottom there.
How are
Let's
lead
bring our
times
fleet up
looking
to-
lately on new orders?
What's that?
How are lead times looking lately on new orders?
Pretty much the same, they're still out there. You know, budget this year and get it ordered and hopefully get it the following.
I know last year we added money to the fleet budget to purchase more vehicles because of legislative changes which have been put on hold. Would it be prudent to buy another digger, another line truck, you know, at this point?
There's a couple of vehicles they still have to go out to bid for this year. They're putting the final touches on those bids. And with what's planned for next year, I think we're gonna be in pretty good shape. Because now it's gonna become an issue of where we store the vehicles. The garage can't fit everything, and part of the facilities budget on the other slide, we're gonna try to build something outside as a shelter for the trucks to keep them outside. Next slide.
So, as kind of discussed earlier, we're going to move forward with a new CIS solution. Our current CIS solution is on an aging platform, and while we're not right up against the gun on its useful life, we want to be proactive about either moving to the new platform that our current vendor offers, or maybe looking at a different vendor. So we're gonna look at all opportunities for upgrading our CIS system. And then as cybersecurity, as I said before, it's kind of a moving target, and new threats emerge daily, weekly, and so does the new technology that comes out to combat that. So we want to have that bucket to be able to take advantage of those new technologies as they emerge and keep this place as safe as possible from an IT security standpoint.
Are there, so this is in the capital budget, are there subscription services that sort of do the same thing that would be in operations, or would that still be capitalized?
I think the initial expense, so we have current cybersecurity subscriptions that we utilize that fall under the operational budget now, but I think is kind of for any new technologies that we would implement, kind of capitalizing them first, and then that yearly subscription would then fall into prior years, to next year's operational budget.
Got it.
So in this case, like, we don't have, the CAP doesn't have visibility on a lot of the financial stuff that you guys have, right? My sense is that our books are not the simplest to manage, right? And will the CIS help address that? Because it's something that's been discussed in the past.
Yes,
So like, and this is a question that, Patty's also been dealing with, like, pulling information from different pieces and, like,
We do a lot
things
of
like this
things,
should
we
just-
do a lot of things offline.
Yeah,
And so we're hoping that the new system, which way we go, is going to be all inclusive to be able to spit out data without doing so much offline, Excel spreadsheets and.
So would the 400K cover everything that needs,
Yeah.
so it's a truly integrated system?
So almost all kind of CIS billing systems are tightly integrated with an ERP system, so this would include all of the financials and all of that as well in that 400K. As well as a lot of the other technologies that support billing in the CIS system, like OMS, MDM, kind of things of that nature.
Okay. Okay, and so that was the question asked, like, is 400K enough for it? So that's. I don't know what you guys,
That sounds all right.
January, like, you did something.
We're in the call.
Okay. All right.
All right, here's an engineering slide, substation 6. You're talking about it all night. Project's moving along well. We have State Electric up there now. They're starting the excavation. For the foundations to receive the switch gear, they've set some manholes. They've hit a bunch of ledge, so they're working on getting the ledge out of the site as well. So for anticipated large payments for next year, we have some National Grid payments, 6.2 million. We'll be paying Distran, who's the supplier of the 115 kV equipment, breakers and structures. State Electric will be getting paid next year, as they should be completing most of the substation next year, so those are some of the bigger payments for next year. Work to be completed, assembly of the 115 kV and 15 kV switchgear in the substation yard, so the switchgear should be coming in December. The rest of the substation yard equipment was awarded to Distran. That equipment will start showing up in December to January of next year. And the contract will begin assembly of all the equipment in the yard. As far as more work we're going to be doing is the installation of the new poles and overhead feeders on Belleville Street. We're working with a PLM, going to submit a plan to the town of Wilmington, a petition plan for the poles and the duct banks. And the feeder getaways. And that'll the duct bank and the feeder getaways will all be put out to bid. We're going to be pulling in $1 million copper, so we don't really have the equipment that can handle the weight of that wire. Next slide. This is a slide on our transformer purchases. We're pretty well stocked on transformers, so you'll see some of the numbers have gone down on what we're going to purchase from previous years. As I've said at some other meetings, we thought we were going to get some of these transformers till 2026. Production opened up and we got them ahead of schedule. So when you look in the yard, if you drive around the yard, you'll see the warehouse is full, the yard is full, station 3 is pretty full. So we've done an analysis on what we need for next year, and the numbers have come down for next year. As far as battery storage, we're still working with talking to citizens on the battery storage that's going to go up to station 3. They're still waiting on the big beautiful bill and how things are going to come out with their incentive tax credit, things like that. So those are going to be part of the incentive for them to move forward with that. We left the Linfield Center Water District Solar and BESS Energy Park up there. I think they voted for it, but I'm not sure if it's going to go any further. So we left it on there in case they want to pursue that. Next slide. Grid assets.
So before we go there, can we just, so if I read your slide on the substation, that was 16 million, shows like carryover 13.3 and 2.7 for this year. Like, I mean, is for 26. So is that 16 million to be spent in 2026? Is that?
No, not all of it will be spent.
Not all of it should be spent.
So it's just the way the project's been delayed and how it's gone out. So like a lot of that carryover is for National Grid. We expected to pay National Grid earlier. We expected other equipment to come in earlier, but since it was already approved, we keep it as carryover. And the 2.7 should bring us up to.
Because I mean, that adds up to 16 million.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So would all of that be spent in 26, or you still
Not all of it.
carry over some to?
It will carry over based on if they're billing, anything else that happens at the site. Things like that.
I have a quick question just on transmission capacity, and so I just noticed there's no other big transmission project scheduled or anything like that here as I look over the 6 years. Can you just comment at a high level on how long this capacity lasts us under current load projections and sort of capacity projections?
This would probably, unless something significant happens, it's gonna last us a good 20 years.
Okay, without having to do another big investment in terms
For
of
a
transmission
substation.
capacity.
Yep.
Or the substation capacity rather. Okay.
Unless something,
Unless a data center.
data center. Then all bets are off, so.
We turn the high school into a data center or something like that.
But this substation will give us plenty of flexibility to reconfigure the circuits the way we have them, add some more automation to the distribution system. Give us flexibility to do more maintenance at other substations by switching the load around. Yeah, it's just gonna give us a lot of flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
And how long has this been in the works for?
They've been looking for land since I think Pete Dion was here, so that was a long time ago. Yeah. Just finding the land took us forever.
Okay, the AMI project, so we have received, about 500 meters for the pilot phase of the project. We'll be receiving, more meters starting in December, of this year, so we can, hopefully hit the ground running next year. We've been spending a lot of our time recently on integration between the metering system, the MDM system, and our billing system. We have some meters in our shop that we are putting consumption on it. We're doing some testing with the billing system. We're testing with MDM, with our AMI vendor to make sure that everything will work before it goes up to the field. So we are preparing for, we talked time of use earlier, if we ever did system line change to the time of use, that we'd be able to handle that. We'd be able to, our billing system would be able to handle it. And if we decided to do it at a drop of a dime a year from now, we could do that without huge disruptions to the company. So we are doing things a little more differently than we were doing in the past, but we want to make sure that our bills don't change, even though we're doing things in the background a different way. The bill looks exactly the same as last. So it's a different way of us doing things. Like today, if someone wants a time of use meter, we actually physically have to go and change the meter. We will not be doing that in the future. So it is progressing pretty good. Tantalus, our AMI vendor, was here last week to do some training with us, some pilot training. With some individuals to show them what the system can do, and then some more detailed training with some of us that will be dealing with it every day. So it's going pretty well, you know what I mean? You know, the integration with different systems is difficult, it's challenging. So especially when it's 3 to 4 different systems, but you know, I'm hoping to install maybe a couple dozen meters in a couple weeks. Get them out in the field on people's houses and things like that, see how everything looks, but we are really trying to work out the bugs in the office.
We're having at least a couple of meetings weekly with the various vendors to push this integration thing, because frankly, in my mind, it hasn't been happening fast enough. So really kind of holding people's feet to the fire. Like I say, it's at least a couple of Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock. You know, being the.
You wouldn't know he's interim.
Get it done.
You're gonna get it done by January 2nd.
I'll go with that.
How do you
Oh,
choose?
no, go ahead.
Hey all, sorry for the noise. I have to drop in a minute though. I just wanted to say thank you for the great presentations.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, David.
And the only thing I meant to ask earlier is why was it 900 and change for lawyers? But if that's what it is, that's what it is. On the OpEx.
Okay, so can we hold on that question? We'll see if we can get an answer and follow up on that.
Yep.
Dave.
Sounds
Thank you.
Okay, thanks all.
Great.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, bye-bye.
I just had I think this question is a review, but for your industrial customers and sort of larger commercial customers, are they already on some sort of AMI meter? And you have sort of real-time data already on that level of load profile?
Yeah, so we have, we went AMR almost 15 years ago. We had one fraction of, customers left, which were our biggest customers, left to change out, and the decision was made to do an AMI pilot. So we secured a vendor, and some of our biggest customers have been on AMI meters. We try to expand it a little bit to get end of line voltage, because the meters that we had at AMR, we didn't have voltages off those meters, so we tried to get what they call end of line voltage at the end of our circuits, so we can feed that information into our SCADA system. So we've deployed about 1,500 AMI meters out of about 30,000.
And mostly on the
Mostly in the large
customer side. So this is primarily, I mean, the remainder is primarily sort of residential, small commercial.
Yeah, it's a little more than small commercial. We classify, they call it 500 club. Our bigger customers, anybody over 500 kW per month. So it's pretty small, it's 100, not even 100 customers. But we do have a lot of middle of the road customers where, you can be anywhere, 75 to 500 kW. That's sizable. That's a sizable company. So, those people were not changed to AMI unless there was a reason to. So to support the existing PDR program, response, we have to change the meter to support. So we changed some, but in the grand scheme of things, there's only about 1,500 AMI meters out there.
So thank you. We have 31,000 meters. You've got 500 new ones now, right?
Yeah.
And next year, how many are you looking? Because I see the budget goes to 26 and 27. So you have like 1.5 million in 27, 3.5 in 26.
Yep.
And some carry over 3.2. So like bulk of this is going to be carried over into 26.
Yeah, a good portion of it, we hope to start early 2026 to mass deployment. We were going to do it with an outside vendor. The pricing came back. It was very, very expensive. It was almost double the cost that we thought it was going to be done. So we are going to do it in-house. Obviously, in the winter months, depending on the weather, it might be slow going if we get a lot of snow. But we plan to do most of the change outs next year. Obviously, some will carry over into 2020.
Okay, so this is about 8.3 million spread over 31,000 meters, but not all meters are equal, right? Because like some customers, like you said, aren't big customers.
Yeah,
So
so some of the meters are a little more expensive than the others.
Yeah, so are you hitting all the big customers early?
We'll probably do them maybe a little later. We might have the meters, we might have to pay for the meters, but they won't be installed yet.
Okay.
We will take receipt of all the meters next year.
And so,
30,000 meters.
Yes,
and you'll deploy how many next year?
I would say 75% of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there another question?
Tim, you would be able
I was gonna ask about the meters. His first statement was that he's gonna start putting some out very quickly, and in fact, is that a volunteer program, or you just pick A, B?
We're just picking areas. Everybody's meter needs to be changed, so,
At some point, yeah.
So it's not really a volunteer. We've created a couple, we actually have some of the, meter reading devices already in the field, so our readers will be deployed around those pieces of equipment so we can read them, so that's sort of.
What's the communications plan to those customers? It's just meter upgrade.
Yeah, as we speak, we have a draft of we're gonna do door hand, seems to be the least cost way of informing the customers. So when these technicians go out there and once they're done, they can give the customer the door hand. So we have the language drafted, we'll do some internal review and then have those printed for exchange those out.
It's a slide of operations, just some pole replacements we've done with, annually, we test 1,000 poles. We've been doing the test based on age, the oldest poles and working our way up. Poles replaced based on testing. We don't do any bracing like Verizon does. We'll get a report down and, they'll tell us how critical, the need of a pole is to be replaced. We'll schedule those either immediately or a couple of days out, or we'll put them onto the master list of poles to be replaced in the future. The routine construction just covers all the unplanned routine activity that goes on in the distribution system. Capital construction projects that develop during the year is included under the routine construction. So you'll see a number of projects in the capital budget on that.
I have one question on transform. You map your portfolio as under 25 and over 25, right?
Yeah,
Is there, but you actually know how old each transformer is,
yes.
and
We just don't know how long it's been in service. Till recently, we've been able to record that. When the transformer goes out and then comes back in and goes out, sometimes you lost that data, but we were able to track that data now.
okay, no, so I thought you're tracking the age and saying once it's over 25 years, it's on the list to be replaced.
If it's yes, we do inspections and it'll go on the list and we look at a bunch of things as far as the transformer to be replaced. We'll look at the load, the condition of the transformer, figure how long it's been out in the field, those type of things to help with that decision.
So is it possible, or maybe you already have, but is it possible to communicate to us how critical our portfolio of transformers is? Because if all of them are on the edge of 25 years, I mean, if the remainder, because if you have a distribution, if you could just represent that as a distribution and saying, I have so many, and then, and also if they have some risk element associated with oil problems or heat or something like, I think like you look at the temperature of the transformer.
We look at the loading in TLM, transformer load management. We look at the loading of the transformer and that'll be an indication of what to do with that transformer. Now, just because it's on that list doesn't mean it has to be replaced. We can split the crib, add another transformer, take half the load off of that. So there's different things factored into that.
No, so just what I'm trying to understand is from a criticality perspective, is it possible to communicate through a better representation which shows age and criticality, and this shows by distribution, so at least we know from a budgeting point of view, our portfolio, so many of our transformers are at risk. Because right now, the only thing we've historically always been communicating is age, right? I mean, that's the only number we typically hear about. And I'm sure you have other metrics that you use.
Yeah, I mean, 25 is a good number, but if a transformer's out there and it's not loaded, it's lightly loaded, it'll go like more years than 25. I mean, we're replacing transformers that are 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
So there's different factors that we use when we determine whether the transformer needs to be replaced. A lot of the transformers that are over 25 that are in the underground, we do inspections on all those. And we make determinations there.
No, it's just that because I think, transformers are such a critical asset, right, in the whole system. So I'm just thinking, is there do other utilities map it differently?
This is better. The same thing, this is such a massive lump, you go out, you put them in service, you get the date, you put them in service. You design them, they could have been sitting in stock for 2 years. But then you're taking something that you could be in stock, if it's not used, could sit for 5 years. So it doesn't have any use on it, it's just been sitting for 5 years.
Especially with pole mounts here, we have them inside. So,
Yeah,
you know,
so-
it's
so-
20
so-
years old, it's rich.
I-
But we do keep a percentage. We look at the styles of transformer we have between single phase, three phase, pad mount, pole mount. We try to keep a certain percentage of the different types of transformers in stock as emergency replacements and to have a number of stock to replace units in the field.
So they have,
You're asking is, are you prioritizing them on another way to look at this age?
yeah, no,
So-
essentially, yeah, my question is there a better way to represent how you are managing that portfolio? So that it's not just digital, you know, as it's being represented to us as below and above 25, you know?
I don't think it would be worth the effort. Quite honestly, I mean, it's such a routine part of what you do, you know, you get an indication. A lot of times, I don't, something starts going wrong when you need to replace it, being proactive in investing in a highly detailed analysis for what you have. I don't know if the bang for the buck would be there. Right, other than age transformers. Probably
Loading.
age loading is a good analysis and.
We had one on the street in Grove last night. Somebody had a pole and they had to replace it. If you saw the outage map, the outage was on the outage map on the website, so.
Okay, no, so my question is there a better way of representation and you're saying it can't work? It's just that.
I don't, I'm sure there is, but the analysis you'd have to do to get to that level. Again, my opinion, I'm sure there is other methodologies, but.
Are you looking at an inventory somewhere, Vivek, or?
Yeah.
This is about the pie chart.
It does a pie chart.
The page you want with that?
Oh, right here, this 52.
Me used to have he used to have a. Fine, that's one of how many age transformers that was program. Which is
What
still-
page is it? Sorry. 52, yeah.
But I mean, I understand the point where if you've got less than 25 and, you know, if 60%, if 60 of that 65% is between 20 and 25, and we're just not seeing that.
Yeah, no,
It would be-
it's just a way of communicating
Yeah,
that, you know,
it'd be interesting to know that. Yeah, that, you know, there's a grade.
Because
You have a big wave of transformers in your way that
yeah,
you
no,
have to
it's not,
replace.
it's not like it's not an even distribution, it just shows you where the lumps are. And it just, you know, so that was my only point of, you know, showing it as, you know, either a chart like this, like you could have like a 2D diagram, or you could just have like one XY chart.
10 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a way to see the more granular vintage of each asset or something like that, or the percentage of the.
That will be part of the cost of our study.
Yeah.
Speed it up quite nicely.
You're getting early, I'm not sure.
Sorry.
From a budget perspective, this might be okay. I think if you want to get more detailed at another time.
It's, it's less of a budget issue, it's more of a risk issue, like you're just saying, I'm trying to understand what is the risk in our assets, right? So that shows it, point out what the risk is, so.
Yeah, I think you could almost use the same thought process with poles, and you're always, the pole lasts, say, 30 years. 1/30th of your pole inventory should always be in place. Yeah, 10,000 poles, okay. 1/30th of that, okay, that's how many poles I should be replacing per year. Transformers, they're different, but I think it's kind of the same.
But lead time for transformers, like we've been
Well,
through those, and right?
Yeah, but you're always replacing some on maintenance basis and yeah, there's a million ways to look at it, but I quite take.
But I thought we were ahead on inventory for transformers. I mean, I understand your question in terms of you're looking at reliability and.
And I'm looking from a
But-
risk point of view, like, do I have like
and-
a
and
whole
a break-
cohort coming when, you know, it's like, they need to
Yeah,
go. But-
age
but
is the determining factor though, you know, I mean, you're looking at 25, it's, you know, the older a transformer gets, the more likely it could fail. But it's all these other things that are based on the condition, the loading, the environment, how many years it's been in service. So just because it's over 25, like we said, if it was 15 years on the shelf, it's only been in service 10 years. How was it loaded for those 10 years? So there's a lot of things that we look at when we look at the transformers, but when we try to keep an inventory, we try to keep, I think it's either 5 or 10% of backup for the transformers. So
And right now, you're telling us there's no like 5-year transformer cliff or anything like that, that you're anticipating that
no,
the whole
nothing
stock is gonna.
that we haven't budgeted for before.
And we do inspect all our underground transformers after 10 years of age. And they include our most expensive transformers, which are the 3-phase panels. So we're looking at those every year, so we know there's not a cliff, you know what I mean? We've got about 4 or 5 years of history of these transformers. So we have a pretty good handle on the condition of our most expensive transformers out in the field.
Yeah,
Because I think the expense we can manage, but it's the delay, right, in getting this, them, we suddenly need a lot of them, it's a risk, so that's part of the reason I'm
You know,
flagging.
the cliff we look at is a catastrophic event, whether it be tornado, or, you know, anything, lightning storm, anything like that. That could take out a flood, any of those events that could take out poles, pad mounted transformers, any of those things are more likely than any kind of cliff we have as far as with the age of transformers.
It's over 25 years of service, still going. So. Okay.
Put them on the shelf.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Next, okay, so can you just read back maybe some of the key follow-ups we have?
I've got a couple. Increase the RMLD's health insurance
Yeah,
and how much for the cost of service study.
okay, and then we could have a follow-up question that Dave had around legal costs and what the.
I don't think it was a question.
My note to myself was follow up with Dave on question only.
I think his question is why, what makes up that amount and.
900,000.
Yeah, because it's 760, right, you said it's 760.
Yeah, so maybe we just need to confirm, but so maybe if we're gonna do follow-up session, maybe just a little bit, next
Yeah.
level of detail on like, what are the assumptions and like how much is labor attorney versus. Yeah, I think you've got some of that in there. So it's fine, right?
We still talking about budget.
I asked for good questions, nobody said it.
So on,
You're over 25.
yeah, exactly.
A little more
Might be
effort.
repeating. Just on page 87 on the line item budgets. When you go there, the first thing you look at is what's increased a lot, and what's decreased a lot. You know, what are the ones that pop out to the most, you know, just on that page. So, you know, are we getting the right mark? Like if you take under operating and maintenance expenses, line 580, you know, if you look at our projection of what we had, percentage change, we're 50% over for, you know, line item 580, but yet on the budget, we're only putting in 900,000. We were at a much higher number. And the year before, you know, we budgeted a number, we were higher than that, and the number before, the year before, 24, right, we budgeted, we were similar. So I think that line item.
That 900,000, that's one of the things that we're now capitalizing more of the labor, so that's why it went down. Because it's not an operating labor expense, it's more of it's going to be in capital.
Okay, so you're shifting 900,000 over to the capital side.
Not, that's what's left is the 900,000.
So the
In
other,
operating, it's the difference, it's more percent of the total labor for that category is going into capital than previously. Because of the projects that we have going on.
So kind of the nature of what's gonna happen in 26 is a lot more capital And this is the operations budget, so
Yeah,
a greater shift of
a
those
shift, so
dollars.
it's a shift in the dog, okay. And then would that, again, hold true, so I'm assuming that's the same thing in line 598. Is that, again, that line item where it's been 774 and then 764, and then it drops down to 270. 551, is that because of the same
It's
shift?
probably the same thing, but because it's saying leave time, I think maybe the percentages were applied to evenly, in a ratio allocated. So we have to take a look at that one.
Yeah, that's interesting, that one, because we're always, last couple of years anyway, we've been significantly over the budget. But then the budget's gone down. So,
But if the money's being redistributed, then that's.
right,
a lot
but even
smoother.
so, why are we consistently significantly over budget?
Yeah.
Thinking that we can even do more,
Right,
less, I guess.
or, yeah, well, we're, and then coming from a different source. But that, just items, when you look at anything that's above 50% or, even below 50%, those are the just a little bit of, look at those and say, hey, some of them you can't control. But others you possibly can. But those are the ones I would take a look at.
Same page. 916, efficiency and electrification. For the two previous years, we seem to be spending only about half of the budget that we put out there. We're still projecting the 2026 budget of 3.2 million. Can
One
you do a
thing-
good job at spending that, or?
But one thing that should be noted here is that the budget in the previous years and with the way that we were recording it, we were taking a portion of the staff in the IRD department and applying it to the programs. So if you notice the middle column, the integrated resources low at 916. And the energy efficiency expense is high at almost 4 million. But if you combine those two numbers, you compare them to the two numbers from this budget, it's pretty close. So I think it's down 7%. So that's because a lot of Megan's staff, the plan was to take the people working on the program and moving it into the energy electrification expense. But we decided not to do that.
Yeah, when that allocation was done, again, it wasn't very thoughtful. Sometimes when I came in last year, this one staff member, her entire time was allocated to EEC, energy efficiency, but she was only spending 10% of her time on it. And in the end, I decided it didn't make sense to charge staff time to energy efficiency because that's the specially dedicated collected revenue that should be going back to customers who participate in our program.
Right.
And then it's really splitting here to try to figure all, each member of the team, how much time they're spending on the energy efficient program, because they also work on, general communications, website update, program design. How do we allocate that? It wasn't a very thoughtful and reasonable way to do that. So we took all the labor costs out of the energy efficiency fund budget, and then just leave it in our general salary labor budget. And then for the EEC budgeting itself, because it is a dedicated fund, I cannot say we're gonna collect $3 million, but I only budget for $2 million. So the budget number is always gonna stay around that $3 million based on the rate that we're charging customers to collect that fund.
Right.
So the actual spending, I did actually prepare a table just in case you ask this question. We do have a lot of.
Predictable, you're too predictable.
I'm getting a reputation.
You're changing up a little bit, right?
We have over 100 cases that's gonna be carried over to early 2026.
Okay.
Because we have all these, people, when they install like farm solar, it's a long lead time. So we do track how many we're having. So, in the end, we may not still spend all that, but I do need to prepare for it. For example, for the commercial and industrial customers, we only had like 3 last year and maybe 4 or 5 this year, but we developed 2, 3 new programs for CNI customers. We're actually planning a workshop for our CNI customers in January. So we really want to engage our customers. To be honest, they actually contribute to the larger half of this EDC fund. So once they come in, if they actually do something, it can easily be $50,000. Because right now our cap for CNI is $50,000, just one case. So I do want to prepare for that growth in the CNI side.
Yeah, good. I just want to make sure we are spending that money, and because it is collected for that purpose.
Yes.
And great, I mean, the allocation of the time spent servicing it should be correct, and you're accounting for that. I don't like to see that money not spent and then hear, oh, well, it doesn't pay for a person not to put solar on their house because, it's not a good deal. Well, let's make it a good deal. We've got the money. So.
I think it's a
that's-
policy decision. If this board decides to support more, staff are more than happy to work on those programs, but it's a policy decision
Right.
to, how.
And the policy decision would be supported, are we not spending the resources we've set aside? And if we aren't, then we should change the policy to make sure we do. But yeah, thank you for anticipating the question.
Other questions? So we do have a few follow-ups, and given that, maybe we don't vote past this evening unless anybody feels the follow-ups are minor enough that.
It'll be nice to look at the updated numbers, one complete set of updated numbers, so that we are approving numbers that have been adjusted.
I think we have time for next week, already set aside for that. Yep.
Yeah, and we'll pick the numbers for the.
Yeah,
Net plan.
they'll be in sync, yeah.
So we'll provide a new version of the budget before the
Yeah.
next meeting I have on.
Yeah, I think that'd be good form, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then if we just have maybe Paul or somebody, you can just present, here's the answers to like the 3 or 4 questions that
Sure.
we have.
Yeah.
That means when?
Wednesday, the 19th.
At RMLD.
Thank you.
She's looking.
I could be hearing the door knocking.
It was noted to correct me the first time.
X couldn't have been better.
You're welcome. Okay, I think that's it for the evening. Yes, we're not gonna do the motions on those, so nothing else, we can go ahead to.
We get the RMLD system advisory board and turn right in.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Yeah, it will call vote to 5. Vivek, sir.
In wood. It's small, like.
Thank you.
I haven't moved to the RMLD board of commissioners adjourn regular session.
You have a second?
Second,
All those in favor, roll call vote,
Swanson, yes.
Ray Porter, yes. Buckles.
Councilor, yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Good job.
Thank you, everybody.